Well, everyone, Tony Costa here from Trial Apologetics. So glad that you can join us. I'd like to remind you again, as always, to subscribe to the channel, Trial Apologetics, absolutely free. Just go down to the bottom of the video, click on the subscribe or the bell icon if you have one on your device, and you will be immediately connected to us, subscribed, and you'll be informed of any new videos coming up. I'd like to also ask that you like this video, that you also share it with others. One of the most common things we usually hear from our Muslim friends is that the reason why they cannot believe in the incarnation, that God could become man in the person of Jesus Christ, is because for Allah to enter into his creation, he he would undermine his majesty, his excellence, that he would debase himself. For Allah to enter into creation, it would be to commit an insult to his grandiosity, his majesty, his supremacy, his preeminence, and so forth. And therefore, they don't believe that Allah can enter into his creation at all. And this is why the Quran will deny that Jesus Christ is God in human flesh. This is why Muslims will aggressively attack and mock the incarnation, going so far as to mock Jesus Christ. I've had Muslims on my social media mocking Jesus, that he defecated, he peed, he passed gas. I won't use the actual words they used, and that he passed gas, and your God did this and your God did that. And the first thing I did was I was absolutely shocked that Muslims would talk about Jesus like this, because I keep hearing that they love Jesus and that they admire Jesus and that we make no difference among the prophets. And yet you just hear some of the most rude and condescending statements about how Jesus had to go potty. And of course he did. No Christian has ever denied that Jesus had to go potty, that Jesus had to urinate, that Jesus had to be breastfed by his mother. Of course, he was a real human being. Of course, what they don't understand is that the Quran is at fault here, because the Quran makes them think that what we're saying is that the man, Jesus of Nazareth, that Christians think that that's God, that God is a man, that God is a flesh and blood human being walking by the Sea of Galilee. That's not what Christians believe. We believe that we don't believe the common accusation used by Muslims and by rabbinic Jews and Jews who are opposed to um, the gospel and opposed to other Jews who believe in Jesus, that Christians made a man into God. That is not what Christians believe. We've never believed that. It's quite the opposite. God became human in the person of Jesus Christ. You see, the Christian God, unlike the Islamic God, the Christian God is able to enter into his creation. He is able to become a human being. Allah can't do that. I mean, if Allah cannot do that, then is he truly the Almighty? Is he able to do all things? Well, obviously he can't. He can't have a son without a consort, chapter 6, 101 of the Quran. Even though Mary has a baby without a husband, she doesn't need a husband to have a baby, but Allah needs a wife to have a son, which again, it ironically seems to suggest that Mary seems to have more power here, being able to have a son without the need of a husband, and yet Allah needs a wife to have a son. Um, but at the same time, I'm trying to be fair to the Quran here, because the Quran does have instances where Allah does enter his creation, where Allah appears in the burning bush and speaks to Moses. He's in the fire. Blessed is he who's in the fire, and who's in the fire but Allah. And he's in the fire that is burning the bush, but the bush is not being consumed. And so Allah is clearly in this fire. He's clearly in this fire in the bush, which is a created thing. Anyhow, I've already addressed this in another video. But what I wanted to do was just share with you a hadith that clearly contradicts the Muslim apologist claim that Allah cannot enter his creation. In fact, the Sahih hadith of Sahih Muslim clearly says that Allah can indeed and does indeed enter into his creation. And so this hadith, I can understand why the Quran only Muslims want to reject the hadith, because the hadith makes some of these very troubling statements that for some Muslims are hard to swallow. And that includes Muslims who accept these hadith. Some of them try to say that's not what it says, or that's not what it means, or you're taking it out of context. But what I wanted to do with you is I wanted to share just this one hadith here from Sahih Muslim, and I'm just going to increase the font here for you, and hopefully that's big enough for you guys to read. And this is fully accessible online. All you have to do is go to sunnah.com. You can see that on the upper left there, sunnah.com. It's a marvelous website that gives you online access to the hadith or the ahadith. And here, what we have is, if you look at the bottom here, in case our Muslim friends are questioning whether this is genuine, you could see it right down here, Sahih Muslim 758b, Sahih Muslim 758b, or Book 6, Hadith 202. And here in this hadith, Sahih Muslim 758b, what does it say? Abu Huraira reported Allah's messenger as saying, so Allah's messenger here is Muhammad. And if this is coming from Muhammad, then Muslims are bound to accept this. Now remember, it's Sahih, and Sahih means sound. This is a sound, reliable hadith. And notice what it says here. It says here, interestingly enough, we need to look at the language here, because the language here is vital. Allah descends every night to the lowest heaven. What is Allah doing? He is descending. That sounds like entering into his creation. Remember, Muslims believe that Allah is above the throne. That's what many Muslims say. He's above the throne. But notice he's descending. Well, if he's descending, he's descending from somewhere. Where's he descending from? He's descending from the throne or above the throne. So he's descending. So Christians believe that God descended and became incarnate in the person of Jesus Christ. But what does it say here? Allah descends every night. So think about that. For 365 nights in a year, Allah descends every night. And where does he go? To the lowest heaven. Where's the lowest heaven? That's part of creation. The lowest heaven is part of creation. And Allah descends to the lowest heaven. Is that not Allah entering into his creation? The lowest heaven is part of the creation. He descends there to the lowest heaven when 1/3 of the first part of the night is over. When 1/3 of the first part of the night is over. So this is the created order. This is creation. Notice there's time being mentioned here. And notice that when Allah descends every night to the lowest heaven, that's talking about space. So now you've got space-time. What is space-time? The space-time continuum is the universe, the created order, the earth, where we live. So you've got clearly a reference to space and time here. What is Allah doing entering into space and time? He descends from one area to another, which seems to suggest that Allah is localized. Unlike the God of the Bible, who is not just transcendent, but he's omnipresent. He's everywhere present. But here Allah seems to be descending from one location, one locale to another. He goes right down to the lowest heaven. That's creation, folks. And 1/3 of the first part of the night is over. That's time. And what does he say? What does Allah say? It goes on to point out here that he says, I am the Lord. I am the Lord. Who is there to supplicate me so that I answer him? So now Allah is wondering, who is there to supplicate me so that I answer him? This seems to call into question his omniscience. Does he know all things? If he knows all things, why does he have to descend every night? And why does he have to descend to the lowest heaven in order to see if there's anyone who is praying to him? Who is there to supplicate me so that I answer him? And then it says, who is there to beg of me so that I grant him? Look, wouldn't Allah know that already, being above the throne? It seems to be the case here in this hadith that Allah is descending to obtain information. Why does he descend every night to the lowest heaven, to the 1/3 of the first part of the night, to ask these questions? it sounds like he is looking for people who are praying to him. Why else would he have to descend and ask these questions? Notice the question goes on to say, who is there to beg forgiveness for me so that I forgive him? Notice there's no mention here of justice, no sense of the justice of God, the law of God, which we find in Christianity. That God does forgive, but he forgives on the basis of justice and mercy that Christ paid for us by meeting the just demands of God's law when Christ became an atonement for us. So Allah is asking, who is there to beg forgiveness from me so that I forgive him? And then it says, he continues like this till the day breaks, which means until dawn, when the sun rises. Daybreak, sunrise. So Allah is descending every night to the lowest heaven, to the 1/3 of the first part of the night, and he goes around looking to see who's praying for him, or excuse me, praying to him for pardon, for forgiveness. And he continues like this till the day breaks. So throughout the night, Allah is looking for people to supplicate him, to beg him, to beg forgiveness from him. That sounds like a God who needs to obtain information, which, if that's the case, how can God, who is the greatest conceivable being, of which there is no one greater, how can a God like that have any deficiencies in him? The God of the Bible doesn't have any deficiencies. He doesn't lack anything. He doesn't need to learn things and find out about things because he knows all things. And in the incarnation as a man, did Jesus Christ as man, did he have to learn and increase in knowledge as a man? Yes. But as God, he was omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. But we have a major problem here because Allah is moving from one locale to another. He's entering into space and time, and he is seeking out information. The God of the Bible does not do that. He can enter his creation, but he doesn't cease to be God. And God doesn't enter his creation to figure things out, to come on a mission to discover things. He doesn't come as an incognito, as a private eye. And so according to this hadith, Allah continues doing this till the day breaks. And now we have another problem, and that is, does he do this every night, nonstop? Because where it may be night in North America, it's daytime somewhere else in the world. So does he descend down during the nighttime in North America until the day breaks, and then he goes to Australia or to some other place where it's nighttime, which means that Allah is not really descending and ascending. He's just moving around the world. But our Muslim friends need to recognize something. When you say that Allah cannot enter his creation and that Allah cannot enter space and time because he is above all things, above the throne, his transcendence, that's not what we're reading here, folks. This is completely different than what we are told in Islamic theology. And so when our Muslim friends remind us and tell us that God cannot enter his creation, share this hadith with them, Sahih Muslim 758b. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it edifying and instructive. And again, if you have not done so already, I encourage you to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to Quran Apologetics. Until next time, folks, Tony Costa here. God bless. Bye for now.